Hello and welcome to another episode of the Everything's Been Done podcast, Conversations in Cycling Subculture. I'm your host, Dustin Klein, and this episode is brought to you by our Summer Pledge Drive. Help keep the lights on by becoming a member of the International Players Club. Donations will be rewarded with beautiful prizes, ranging from lapel pins, sticker packs, patches, and not much more. Join the International Players Club at the link below. Today's guest is a very exciting pair of double dabblers. They are rubber enthusiasts, rubber nerds, tire geeks, and contact point purveyors. You can find them at ultradynamico.com and on Instagram at Ultradynamico. Please join me in welcoming Ultradynamico. Thank you guys for doing this. I'm fucking stoked to talk to you guys. I love what you guys do. I think the tires are cool. I love that it's a FUBU brand, a for us, by us. Rubber is one of my favorite parts of the bike. So God bless you guys for being here.
Yeah. God bless rubber trees.
Exactly. We're happy to be here, Dustin. Thank you for having us.
Well, yeah, I'm sure the Zoom is, so we got Patrick and Ronny. Zoom dictates who looks, or who we see, I mean. So, yeah. Hello. But the gold from Ronny just seems to be overbearing Patrick's image.
Well, yeah, it's humble.
That's pretty standard.
And, yeah, it's another wing of my cottage. But, you know, I invited you two here, but with social distancing, there's plenty of room. We could get 50 feet apart just in this one palatial mat. But, you know, you guys didn't want to fly, so you're lost. We're going to be playing. We're going to be playing badminton. Is that what No, croquet. I get the two confused.
I mean, yeah.
We're working on an Ultradynamico croquet mallet. It's not used for bike polo. We wouldn't stoop that low. It's only for croquet.
This guy. Hey, on your toes. They're coming in hot. Well, now here's a boring question. How did you two meet?
Pats?
Well, I like to hear your version of the story, Benedict.
Ooh, that's cool.
Oh, okay. First, you got to respect me and call me by my Christian name.
No.
We've been over this before. No respect. From the beginning, no respect. And let me tell you, Patrick and I met in Austin, Texas in 2003. It was like 2004, summer. I had just moved to Austin.
Cool.
Fresh off of my Oxford fellowship I was working at Gold's Gym at the time.
That is true.
That is true.
I like how Patrick can actually say, like, he can push the green button for things that are accurate.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
What is an Oxford fellowship? You guys don't even know if that's even real, but it is. And I was working downtown Austin. Now, this is before all that. I was working at Gold's Gym, and I was riding by somewhere. I didn't have any friends yet. I moved there alone, and summertime, and I was looking for people to ride with, and I rode by this grouping of really tough looking bike messengers, right? This is like peak fixie, everyone, but these guys weren't even wearing neon colors. Like, they were tough fixie guys.
Black.
And I was immediately intimidated because I was on a road bike in spandex. No, I don't think I was in spandex when we met, but anyway, I show up there and I asked if I could join the ride, and somebody from the back, no one said anything. And someone from the back was like, I guess.
Was it a ride, or was it just messengers hanging out? They're like, what fucking ride?
It could have been that. I was such a square. I was just a little boy from Connecticut,
A little boy.
No, it was.
I didn't know what I was getting. I was innocent.
It was a messenger race. It was actually a really cool event. It was like a week-long stage race of different messenger.
Oh.
It was like a couple of checkpoint races, and then they had a road stage that was like 20 miles around, like in town road stage.
Yeah, 20 miles.
Yeah, and then they had and that was the road stage.
Road stage was like 50 miles.
I heard it was 75.
They had a hill climb.
That sounds. I get my numbers confused.
150 from what I last remember.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah.
But my earliest memory is you in the parking lot beforehand. We were doing, it was a TT stage, and you rode up on a race bike, on a road bike, and you were wearing like a purple leotard. Like it was like,
yes.
It was like a bright purple bodysuit.
These guys had never, I'm telling you, these knuckle dragging messengers had never seen a proper skin suit and arrow helmet before.
Yeah, I mean, this was a TT, but all of us were in like cut off dickies and cut off t-shirts because it was all messengers and mechanics from all the shops. And then this dude comes up with like old Bricos on and a full on, and it was July. It was like a full on purple, all the way like legs and everything. Like it was a full skin suit.
It was full suit. Yeah.
And I was like, who is this clown? Like complete clown. And I don't think I talked to you. I don't think I talked to you really. And then we at all actually.
Like, no one did. No one did.
And then we started, and then the next stage was like a road stage. And I remember being in the front of the road stage with you and there was only a handful of people. I was the dickhead messenger that didn't drink and was like really competitive, where all the other messengers would show up and just party and drink through all the races. I was like the one that was like looking around, like really riding hard.
Would you win too?
Yeah, I won a bunch of the messengers.
That's
the
cool.
King. He was the king.
Because it's like, this bullshit would make me, you're just competitive. That makes perfect sense.
Well, but I was also like not hanging out for 15 minutes smoking a joint at the in the middle of the race, which, that helped. But anyway, but I was competitive, and so I remember looking around the group, and there was only a handful of us in the group at that point. Like, again, the 25-mile road stage, we were probably 12 miles in or something.
Big day.
Big day. And Benedict and I finished that stage, and I remember being like, damn, he's pretty strong, and we kind of started talking at the end of that event and put it together that we had common friends.
Oh, wow.
So, and then like that race ended, and we just started riding a ton together after that. I think I remember the last stage being like, man, we should hang out and ride sometime. And
we rode every single day after that.
And we basically rode every day after that.
Every single day. And I got Patrick to start wearing bibs.
Really?
And then we'd start wearing just bibs. He came to my parents' house in Connecticut for a visit when I was home working on the boat one summer, and he shaved his legs for the first time on my deck, and my dad came home and berated him.
Yeah.
He's like, who shaved the dog? Where's all this fur coming from? It's everywhere. It's in my mouth.
Yeah.
Are these pubic hairs?
Exactly. Yeah, the way the wind would blow and it would just get all over people's faces. And there were some longer ones. Patrick's pretty hairy down there. So I know intimately. It was a pretty fast friendship early on. And from there we started getting more and more into actual, the obscurity of the European nuances of road racing, right? Before, I guess, just right after the Lance era, when everyone else was kind of going in that hyper American direction with the U.S. Postal Service edition Trek Madones and really bad looking club jerseys, especially in Central Texas. It was terrible. Just no style whatsoever. Yeah. And Patrick and I were really into the Euro stuff, purple skin suits and whatnot. And so we were like, well, let's start we don't really want to ride with these guys. Let's start our own team. And we brought them kind of all the messengers with us and had this pretty cool, unique, all white kits, and it would rain and you would see right through it. We were basically nude out there. And we started racing, and we did our first Cat 5. We were all Cat 5s, and we started that season. There was probably 8 or 9 of us in Cat 5s, all in the same kits, skin, all the way down to shoe covers.
Sick.
Head to toe. Yeah, we looked legit out there, and we'd used all these, pro Euro tactics. We had, I had my own lead out train. It was pretty ridiculous. So yeah, that was kind of like us getting the tips of our long toenails wet. That's disgusting sounding.
I was thinking something else.
That was us dragging our foreskins in the road racing pool. You could use either one. We were both uncircumcised. That was another thing that we bonded over very early.
It's true.
Yeah.
You too? No way.
Yeah, you find that out. We were meant to be together.
Yep, it's true.
So then, did you guys what happened then? You're racing bikes, it's hanging out in Texas. It's hot as fuck. I mean, I guess I feel compelled to ask was John Prawley in that mix at all? Because he was in Austin at one point.
It's prior to Prawley moving to Austin.
No,
prior Prawley.
Not prior, Pat. Come on.
Sorry.
You're supposed to be you're supposed to be the English guy here. You could read, not me.
I know. I can spell.
Yeah,
It was it was right before Prawley moved there. So Prawley got there, like the year that I moved to Portland. So I've been in Portland about 9 years. And so I met Prawley in passing, like just as he got into town.
Yeah.
And we were, I mean, I think the thing with Benedict and I is we have different backgrounds as far as he kind of grew up racing and riding mountain bikes quite a bit. And I grew up riding BMX bikes and then messengering. And then we kind of met in this road era. We both got really, really obsessed with road together at the same time. And then, started that team and then raced for a few seasons. And then I was kind of sick of Austin riding. Like not the people, I love the people there, but the terrain there is really difficult to just.
Right.
The weather's not amazing, and the terrain is really monotonous.
So the terrain would be good. Like Central Texas is a beautiful place. It's just I like to think about Austin like 100 years ago, like how beautiful of an oasis that must have been. But it's the way it's been developed is not. Not in a sustainable like. You just have to. I remember we were just doing. Yeah, it's just it takes back then even it was an hour to get out of the city. You're just going every stoplight every like you ramp up stoplight, ramp up stoplight. Yeah, that was terrible. And you had to put in these huge. We were Cat 5s, but we were still putting in like 25 hours a week.
We were
so stupid. Yeah. And so that'll really doing all those intervals on like a highway feeder road. You can only do so much of that.
Yeah, your brain melts. Your brain melts.
Yeah, your brain starts melting. Yeah.
So then I moved up to Portland. Like I said, I remember probably getting there, and he was kind of shadowing a bunch of the messengers around, following them, and kind of shooting some of their bikes.
Oh, cool.
And I met him, and I was just like, "Yeah, I'm moving. I don't need friends." Was generally my attitude, which was just a terrible attitude because probably is amazing, but it just tells you where I was at. I was like, I'm fucking out of here. I was like, why would anybody move here? This place, like, right. I was seriously fried. My brain was melted. Anyway, so I moved up to Portland, and Benedict had kind of moved out of there and was. You were in Connecticut, kind of.
I was coming back. Time. Yeah, I was going back, and I would work at the time. Well, I guess for 15 years prior to that too, I would work on my father's a fishing boat captain here in Connecticut, and so I would work for him in the summer times and make money doing that, so I wouldn't have to work the rest of the year.
Sick.
That's
cool.
That's how I was able to train 25 hours a week.
That's
and so I would come to Texas in the wintertime, and Patrick had a shed in his backyard. I should say his wife had a shed in the backyard, and they were gracious enough to let me stay there for 3 winters before I moved into that was a pretty nice shed. Like the interior wasn't finished or anything, but I had a bed in there, and there was electricity. The last 2 years that I did winter in Austin was in like an aluminum tool shed with an extension cord put out.
God.
That was after Patrick moved to Portland. So after Patrick moved to Portland, that's when I met Prawley, and we would just ride mountain bikes in the Greenbelt together. I was already totally over road at that point, and I don't think I even had a road bike at that point. So it was just kind of riding I had a year where I got out of road racing, and I think a lot of there's a misconception that especially in that era that the pinnacle of cycling was the race aspect of it, right? Like all your bikes had to be race forward, everything had to be race ready.
Sure.
And so I for that year after I stopped racing, I was I got into Frisbee briefly.
As one does.
But
competitive Frisbee.
Competitive.
Can you imagine if Ultradynamico was a Frisbee company? I mean, what
would be really
the
good.
name is very.
Yeah, it works.
I think we could still go. That way. You think of like is that the Aerobi Frisbee? It's rubber around the edges. I think
it is.
Supply that would probably perform better.
That's a new product line we can get into. I like this.
I mean, at least those are good giveaways. There's a good story tie-in.
Really good giveaway. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you would only use that Frisbee on gravel.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, hold on.
Gravel specific.
It's a gravel Frisbee.
Right.
Frisbee.
Please write that. Okay. You're writing that down, Dustin?
No, I'm just making sure. I don't want to get this wrong in the future when I'm throwing it. So no grass or some grass?
No grass.
What if it's dead grass with like brown dirt everywhere?
That's okay. You don't want to stain the race gray compound.
Yeah.
Because
green grass.
Yeah. We don't make tires for grass. We don't make cyclocross tires. That shit is dead at the door now.
Yep.
Southern California cross, aka grass.
Where were we?
Hey, I want to ask you guys, how is a tire made? I'm just going to fucking switch it all up on us. I don't know how the fuck they're made.
Those are industry secrets. You got to pay big bucks to know how these things are made.
You guys have Venmo? What do I got? 30? You guys have IOU?
$10 to $15, we'll tell you. Yeah.
This week we're going to do a Patreon so we can have questions answered by the boys at Double D, who've been known to.
Double D. The boys at Double D. I like.
Sorry, the dynamic Double D.
Dynamic Double D. Dynamic Doodles by Dan.
Oh, is that the new name?
That's where we do
Welcome to the
drawings.
podcast. Today we're interviewing Dan and Patrick.
Triple D. Thank you. Hi, I'm Dan.
So Benedict, today I rode with Dustin. This morning I rode with Dustin just prior to getting on.
Like moments ago. Like that's why your hair is wet and my hair is wet.
Yeah.
I thought that was the Jerry curl juice.
And Benedict, he said to me, upon seeing me, he said multiple times in a row, "You're his partner? You're his partner?"
No. I was wondering, is it you? I was like, are you his partner? And then he asked me if you were married.
I was like, what? Why do you like his life partner? And I was like, no, I'm not his life. I'm his business partner. There was a lot of confusion up front, and the
name, the East Coast. I had no idea that. So nobody else. Maybe people don't know this. Patrick lives in Portland. There's nowhere in the brand persona to allude that there is even a connection to Portland.
Yeah, right. Maybe, it's like, I think people just assume if it's a bike product that's coming out of Portland, right?
I thought all products came out of Europe. Bicycle products.
Right.
We like people to think we come out of Europe. We're from Europe.
Yeah.
We love that.
Well,
we love
I'm closer. I am in Luxembourg.
I thought that's just what you called that wing was Luxembourg. Or did the forms go through? The permits are they're approved?
Yeah, the permits go through. Yeah, we built this place in Luxembourg. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
So Benedict, he says this to me, "You're his partner?" And I take it to mean I'm not don't look the part enough, right? So that's the way I took the comments.
Oh,
and
sorry.
of course, I'm like, what's the matter with me? Like, what? I don't look like Ronny, so I'm not the part.
Wait, it's Dan.
He was confused. He was just confused about Portland, I guess.
I had no idea. I had no idea because I guess I just assumed it was an East Coast thing because Ronny, Dan, Jacob, Jingleheimer, Schmidt is the like face of the product. So, and that's all I knew. I don't know.
That's nice. That's nice that there's an East Coast persona too. There's like there's the East Coast doesn't get any cred for anything.
Can we tell him? Can we divulge the big news about our East Coast operations?
About the ye old farm.
Yes. Let's talk about that. I'm really excited for you.
Cool.
Let's talk about this.
Let's talk about goats.
Benedict?
Good. Well, we have so Patrick has been shipping all of the tires, which is a pretty big job.
Yeah.
Especially when you're balancing a wife and your wife's business. That comes first because that's what pays for everything else. And you also have a kid that you've got to take care of. And
you have a kid too.
Yeah, it's got a kid too. I just polish gold.
Yeah, what do you
all day long? All day long, I polish gold.
That's right.
Here to look good. Yeah,
he's the public face. I like not being recognized and being asked repeatedly if I'm his partner. It's good. Incognito.
It's good. Yeah. So I just hang out in this place, and every once in a while I'll see if my hair is the right tone and it's matching the other tones in the room. Yeah. That's like, I'll do that 3 or 4 times a day, but for the most part, I'm just hanging out here. So I'm like, well, I guess I could help out a little bit with the shipping part of the business. So we've got it doesn't look anything like this, unfortunately, but we've got a big farmhouse that we've acquired in East Haddam, Connecticut, which is also where Whitcomb. I told you this earlier, Dustin, but this is where Whitcomb, USA.
Nobody knows that.
Nobody knows that, but maybe you'll splice it in, yeah. And you'll be like, I already knew this. I can see this cheeky editing. You'll be like, I already knew this. Why'd he say it again? He's just bragging more about his manses. And I don't think so. Anyway, we've got a really cool place, a big barn, built in 1850, and that's going to be the new East Coast Ultradynamico shipping hub. So
everything will ship out of there.
Not
Patrick's like, fuck you, shipping is going to you.
You're shipping now. And pre-virus, I was not able to be in one place for very long, but now that seems like there's really no other option. So, I'll just be on ye olde farm, picking corns, growing corns and squashes, and shipping tires. Sniffing tires.
So East Coast orders will be shipped by Benedict from the barn. West Coast orders, which is probably going to be probably most of them, will be shipped.
Yeah, there's not many people ride bikes on the East Coast as it goes. I haven't found them.
So, and then because I'm starting to understand how this Dynamico is working, so it'll be East Coast orders goes to Jingleheimer Schmidt, and West Coast and Europe, Asia, Australia, and everything else will probably end up on Patrick's plate.
Yep, you're picking up on how this works, Dustin.
Yeah, so I'll do maybe like three, four orders a week, maybe. Between matching my hair tones to the, just kind of mix it up. Be a little different.
Amazing how this works, isn't it?
Man, you got a sweet deal.
Yeah.
I could probably fit it between a manicure and a pedicure for a while. I'm doing both, so it shouldn't be that hard for me. Everything's done for me.
Well, that's good. That's what we've all been making sure.
Yeah. When you're born with a face like this, Dustin, the world is your oyster. And then
that sound was Patrick dropping the mic and leaving. Patrick, can you come back, please? We're not.
I'm going to ship. I got shipping to do today.
He's got orders to do. Are we done?
I actually do.
Good and bad, huh?
Oh man, yeah.
But wait, I want to ask you guys some nerdy tire questions though.
Okay.
I heard Patrick explaining to our buddy Ryan when we were riding today how a tire's made, and I thought that was, I don't know how the fuck a tire's made. It's around, I don't know. Do you mind explaining that?
Yeah, I guess, did the $15 clear yet?
I think it's.
I'm checking right now.
My connection is really. It should be there.
Well, we had the opportunity to go to Japan last fall to the Panaracer factory, which was,
Sick.
not even it's an understatement to say that was one of the greatest moments of my life. I think I speak for Patrick too.
Sick.
If you've been riding, I've been riding Panaracer tires, since I was 14 years old. So it's, to actually see them being made and see that it's in like this cool small town, on the outskirts somewhere in rural Japan, and to see the factory and to see the tradition that's there, and to see the workers and like all wearing the Panaracer uniforms, and get to meet with the engineers and stuff. We're just sitting there like we had our jumpsuits on. We were slightly official looking, but they treated us with such kindness and respect. It was awesome, and we got to see the whole process unfold. I'll let Patrick take the process. It's
remarkably handmade still. Like there's a lot of people touching the tires. There's a lot of very skilled labor goes on, which you kind of just have this vision, like people just pop it in a mold and it just pops out, and boom, it's perfect. And we were kind of talking earlier on the ride about measured widths, and like there are a lot of variables that come into the manufacturing process, but I would say that the skilled labor that we witnessed was just really, really neat and inspiring, and just something that I didn't realize took place in the process. But it starts from a big block. First of all, they sort the raw rubber into different grades.
Oh, cool.
And so they take basically the rubber that's like, I wouldn't say like the most pure, but that has like the least, I guess it's the most pure, has like the least
highest grade.
Yeah, the highest grade. They kind of sort it out, and then they take that and they use that for their nicer, most high-end tires. And then the rubber that has like more bug parts and sap and just weird stuff in it, like twigs and stuff.
Yeah.
That stuff goes usually on their city bike tires,
Twigs?
That's what it is. That's what it is. Yeah. That's what it is. It's like leaves and
what does that raw rubber look like? Are there balls, or is it a vat? Like, what is it?
It looks like,
cool.
Yeah,
chunks?
It looks like it looks like a sack of like coffee. If you've ever seen like raw coffee, it's just like, looks like a sack of that laying there, but it's like solid. No, it's like a solid.
Those slabs reminded me of like in Italy and the Mediterranean countries, they have those dried slabs of fish, like the salted cod or salted I don't know what the heck they'd have there, but it's like a big slab of dried fish. That's what it looked like to me.
Huh.
I love how we're comparing rubber to like food objects that we desire.
With like twigs falling out of the fish.
Just trying to
fish
get
and
visual.
Twigs, really. Yeah, dried fish and twigs. That's what this rubber looks like.
Anyway, they start by sorting that out, and then they take those big slabs of rubber and they kind of break them into smaller slabs, and then they basically put them through a series of different mixers, and they add different components to the mix and basically come out with the rubber compound that they're going to use for the tires. And then there's a process of basically putting it through different machines.
I got a question. So they'll add things to the rubber because I'm guessing just like straight rubbers just probably wears out really fast.
Yep. Not durable.
So you just got it durable.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He is one with the words. You're right, Donnie.
He's pretty good. Thanks for getting my name right. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll add, they'll add a concoction of different components to make it last longer, basically. To lower the rolling resistance, make it last longer.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Certain
but
ones that
mainly,
make you grippier. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
They can do a lot. It's a lot of alchemy there.
Yeah.
So that would be metal, wouldn't it? Is alchemy only metal, or is that
like that? That one?
Yeah, that too. I don't know. I'm just trying. I want to be the guy that reads also. You know.
Maybe someday.
Yeah.
Never too late to take it up, Benedict.
That sounds fun. Yeah.
Don't tell me what to do.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And they, there's, it's, like Patrick was saying, very a hands-on process. And there's a lot of course, like quality check that goes through, and the rubber is being pushed through these machines that's making it look more like a tread. And then it gets put on this, really what you pay for when you're doing tires is the mold that vulcanizes the tread to the casing and makes for the final tread pattern.
Which is similar to shoes. The mold is a very expensive part. But
right. I would imagine it would be very similar.
Unlike shoes, tires don't have sizes and fucking half sizes within that. You just have,
right?
gnarly.
We would not get into the shoe business.
Right. Well,
you pay to play. We thought about the tires, and you pay to play with tires, but tires, they wear out. You know, people always got to buy tires.
Well, so do shoes.
And there's only one size. Yeah.
Well,
I guess there are a lot of sizes in tires now, though. You know,
regarding sizes, Dustin, one of the things that we get asked so much about is like, why don't you just make another size of this, or why can't you do this size or that size? And I think people don't understand that each size is its own specific mold. You know.
Totally. That's cool to educate people on that.
And those molds are really expensive,
expensive,
time consuming to have made. So, I mean, we would love to just have 5 sizes of every tire instantly using one mold. That would be amazing, but it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
The mold process is like when they stick it in the mold, that's the very last, basically the last process is they take the tire. The rubber's kind of already been added to the casing. The tread rubber has been then added to that, kind of stuck on that casing. And everything's the rubber is so fresh when it's coming out of the machines that it kind of like sticks to itself. And when they stick it in the mold is when everything is basically bonded together through that heat and steam process.
And then it comes out as a steaming tire. Like it
comes out steaming, which is amazing.
So cool.
Okay, I got a couple questions. So, how do they sample a tire without building a mold, or do they not? Is there a sample process?
No, you have to build a mold. You have to build a mold first.
Fuck.
Mm-hmm.
That's
so they'll tell us. We'll say like what kind of they could do sample casings.
Okay.
And just
What's a casing?
You had another question.
What's a casing?
Casing is would be everything about the tire excluding the bead and the rubber for the tread. So it's your
carcass. It's like the carcass.
Yeah, it's your carcass.
Totally.
You have a lot of different choices. What was really cool for us was to have the choices presented to us and then be able to kind of pick and choose and tune the tire to what we wanted it to do. The casing has a big, there are really stiff casings that'll be like a low TPI and be like heavily coated for flat protection. And then there are the keyword like supple casings is what everyone uses that have a higher TPI and are uncoated, no flat protection. And for us, it was always that, flats happen, of course, but it's a lot of it's by chance. It's not necessarily the tire you're riding. It's your skill and if it's your time. Some years, as everybody knows, you get like 2 or 3 flats for the entire year. Some years it's like every single week. And
very true.
It was just your time. You can't blame the tire. Too many people blame the tire and not themselves, or the heavens.
I like blaming myself as much as humanly possible.
I could tell. I could tell that about you. It's good. Yeah, it's endearing.
Oh, stop. Just a little more.
So Benedict, riding with Dustin today. He's on the Rosé races right now, and we took
he
some
must have been hard to keep up with.
He was. He
really hard
he
to
was.
keep up with him.
I was very.
I'm sure on normal tires, it's probably realistically it's doable, but on those tires, you put like a good rider on our tires, and
well, let me tell you, I want to report to you that I watched him descend. He was ripping some of the descents. I was pretty impressed. It was my first ride with him, and taking risks. I like to see taking risks, going fast.
I like that.
And all I could think behind him was like, if he flats one of these fucking tires, I'm going to have to change it for him. I know it. I'm going to have to.
My tire's
going to just hand the bike to me, and he's going to be like, come on, dude. Fix this, dude. This is junk.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So no flats.
No flats. So you're certified. So that's what we call being certified.
Oh.
Yep.
And then you have, like, in the beginning, we had this notion that we were, if we sold to shops, which we hadn't planned on first, but we do now. If we sold to shops, they were going to have a certification program. Yeah. And would have to, kind of like, it would be more of like a survey they give the rider. Maybe they'd have to go on at least one ride with the rider just to tell if they were eligible to ride our lightest tire.
Drinking and riding, yes. Do I throw my bike sometimes?
Those could be questions in there. We're more interested in whether or not you're going to aim directly for that sharp rock in front of you and slice our tire into a ribbon and then leave it on the tire. But or if you're, we check tire pressures very often. A very common mistake that we see is people are always, especially if they're coming from the road, mountain bikers coming in are always, mountain bikes and tire pressure have been a thing since the beginning, but road bikers are very slow to learn that lower pressure is better. And so we'll get people who pump up our tires to like 60 PSI and they go out, and of course, the tire is not going to deflect the rocks or whatever is giving you a flat like it would if you're running a lower pressure, the tire absorbs the sharp stuff instead of standing rigid against it and where it gets torn.
It's like roadies have this. It's like roadies have this notion, and I'm probably a road. You call me a roadie. They see the max pressure on the sidewall, and it's like, it's kind of like max watts or something. They're like, I can probably do 10 more than that, Wow. So you look at max pressure on the sidewall, and you just know a roadie's going to put 10 more than that in. And
it's competitive.
They don't understand that max pressure means max, like with a tube pressure that tire can handle. You never want to run that thing at max ever.
Never.
You want to run it well.
Interesting. So dude, that just reminds me of the fucking speed limit in America. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's 45. I'll go 60." Just exactly. That's the starting point. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does someone that doesn't like? How do you find out the right pressure for your tires? Like, what do you suggest?
I tell people, if I could go by feel, and I looking at gauges, Patrick and I are Marco Pantani fans. He was one of the last great racers of our era that did everything off of perceived exertion instead of data.
Oh, fascinating. Cool.
And so, for me, it's not looking at a gauge, it's being able to feel the tire. And I'll squeeze
with your hand.
And with your hand, and it should be just amount. It should give. It shouldn't feel rigid by any means. It should give, but you always know. If you ride enough, you'll know if that's too low. If you could bring your fingers together too far. I don't know how to tell people this. So are we on the radio? And so I don't know.
And it sounds like you just start doing this. Just start feeling it. Because people will be like, I don't have a reference point. I don't know what I'm feeling. Start doing it. Change your pressure and start. Somebody owns a razor.
If you squeeze your it's slightly more. Your butt is not a great. My butt's pretty firm. Probably as firm as butts come. And taut, I think is the word for it. My butt is still a little bit softer than what you want your tires to be at, but you want it to have that, it's got to have a little bit of give to it. And if it doesn't, if it's just like rock hard, like a basketball, you're going to bounce around on rough terrain first off. Like I've heard people say that they're running like 650 V by 48 and they're used to like a 700 by 38 or whatever, pumped up to whatever they usually pump it up to, and then they'll do the same. They'll pump it up their 650B by 48 to that same pressure that they were running their smaller volume tire on, and it becomes this was like a big thing with fat bikes when they first came out, before they had figured out tubeless on fat bikes. Like, you had to run it at a certain pressure so you didn't get pinch flats on like rocky descents or whatever. And those bikes with 4-inch tires ended up just being like 2 basketballs. You're just coming down the mountain, just bouncing everywhere. There's just really no control.
It should feel like a
rebound.
It should feel like a smooth magic carpet ride, not like you're bouncing off everything.
Yeah.
Wait, is that like a Niner
every
reference, like that bike, or just
no,
like the magic?
Never.
Is there a bike? Is there a bike called the Magic Carpet Ride? Dude, that's hilarious that you said.
Yeah, it's like one of the first full suspension gravel bikes. So it's confusing.
You lost me at full. You lost me at full suspension gravel bikes. I'm sorry.
You brought it up.
It's an intriguing concept. Yeah, you brought it up. You did.
It's difficult. It's difficult because it depends a lot on your rim width. If you run like a carbon wide rim, you can go lower. If you run like an aluminum tubeless specific rim, that's like a narrower inner dimension, you kind of need to go a little bit harder. But you basically want to find that point where, if you run too low, you're gonna experience a little bit of fold over through the corners, and you'll kind of feel the tires.
What's fold over?
Especially on.
Well, you'll notice it first with burping. Like your tire will start burping a little bit. And if you're a mountain biker, really that's pretty low.
And then, so would burping be the same as like I don't know what else to call it, like rim shock, like hitting the rim?
No, burping would be if you're taking a hot corner and you peel the bead peels out of the rim seat just a little bit, and some sealant pops out the side.
Wow. Does it make a noise?
It burps.
Oh, it does.
Mm-hmm. Or a fart, depending, a flatulence. Your friends always know you did it because you bukkake all over the trail, and you're like, "Yep, running right in the razor's edge there." Yeah. But so a rim strike would be if you're running at too low of a pressure, and it's not a rim strike even at the proper pressure if you just take the wrong line. That's the nice thing about tubeless, right? Is that you don't pinch flat.
Oops.
You rim strike on a rock or a log or something. Generally, that means that you're probably running an ideal pressure. If you're not getting any rim strikes, you're either a really good rider or your pressure is wrong.
Wow, really?
That's where some people will ride it. Like mountain bikers will run those cush cores. Have you heard of those? It's a motorcycle technology. They're getting lighter and lighter. They're pretty cool. You'll run them. It's like a rim strip that goes on the inside. That's between the tire and the rim, running on tubeless, and you've got this like a high density foam core that protects the rim from rim strikes. And also, many people, even though there's no tube in your tubeless setup, you can still pinch flats. Like you could pinch the actual tire. And so this takes away that sharp edge on the rim and allows you to run really, really low pressure.
Right.
And it also holds the bead into the rim seat a little bit better also. So you're a lot better also. So you won't burp at all, no matter what pressure you're running.
I feel like and that would,
and you could ride a flat home too if you need to. So I'm moving in that direction for mountain biking for sure, especially for rigid mountain biking, which is what I do. And you've got some amazing, because it's all like the lower the pressure you can run, the lower the pressure you can get away with, the better your ride's going to feel.
That's a good
you're going to have, the more natural suspension. And a lot of people, the gravel bikes in particular have gotten so damn like fancy with the gimmicks in the past 5 years since it's gotten to be like the hot thing. And people are a lot of that is just like band-aids for running the wrong tires and not at the right pressure. Like that's where your suspension is. It's very analog. It's very simple. You get that dialed in, you don't need a fancy suspension stem or whatever else they put on these bikes.
Or a magic carpet ride, full suspension gravel.
You do know what it is.
Just told me.
So would you say for, like if you're just trying to figure out your pressure, what I'm kind of gathering, it sounds like you're almost suggesting like go a little too low and maybe bring a pump and just kind of bring it up. Because the general the general consensus that I've noticed is people go high and then they'll drop down. And a lot of that, of course, is like riding road to a thing and then blah, blah, blah. But I like this philosophy of like, let's see how low we can get away with and then bring it up from there. That's
I think just like experimenting and like it's different for everybody depending on the way you ride, your rim width, how heavy you are, how quarantine's affected your weight, all those things, you know. So just like play with it, you know, experiment when you're, you know, taking that smoke break, let a little more out, see what happens, you know?
Love it. Good advice.
It is. It's a lot of fun to experiment. Yeah. That's more than anything else. Like just don't take what we say or what any manufacturer says and just do that. Like go out and find out for yourself. It's fun.
Okay. And I got another question. How does any brand, well, I guess it's probably different for each brand. How do you guys decide what size a tire is? Like put that number 48.999 or it's a 43. Like how does that what's that standard? I'm sure it's different for every brand. Maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is.
So then how is it for you guys?
We, you know, when you design the mold, basically there's a mold mark, which is like imprinted in the sidewall of the rubber. If you look, you can see a bunch of numbers and the mold mark and the size is on there. And so that is kind of like basically ballpark figure. And I don't know how other brands do it, but we wait until we get samples from that mold and we measure the samples over and over and over and kind of on different size rims.
Oh,
and
you do? Okay.
We decide from there what we're going to badge, like the hot patch is like the label, the color label that's on the tire. We decide what we're going to mark the hot patch with, and we try to get that close. But also, you know, there's so many factors that come into width. Like we said earlier, rim width, inner rim dimension, like how much air you're running, how much pressure you put in the tire. You know, how you decide to measure it. Do you measure to the outer side of the knobs? Do you measure to the edge of the case? Like how to, you know, there's a lot of little factors that come into it. So, you know, and then there's an industry standard of like 2 to 3 millimeters possibility either side of, you know, like there's a variance in there. There's a tolerance in there. So, but we wait and measure all of our prototypes that we get and samples many times. And then the other thing is that people don't realize is that a new tire, after 5 or 6 rides, it stretches out. The casing, especially on a nicer tire, will stretch out and kind of enlarge a little bit as you put miles on it. So
interesting.
Tires, I mean, obviously you're wearing a little bit of the tread rubber out, but the casing will stretch another millimeter or two with miles.
Pretty cool thing. Yeah. Especially a lighter tire, like our race casing I don't think we got into this earlier, but there are the different casings that you can have. You know, if you're choosing a heavier or a lighter one, the heavier one with more protection on it isn't going to flex and deflect rocks in the terrain that you're riding, as well as a nice light casing that's going to conform and be massage the terrain a little bit better. So you're going to feel more of the terrain on a heavier casing, something that doesn't flex as much. And so also a heavier casing won't stretch out as much either. So we'll find that we'll measure our race casing, and that's usually what we'll badge the rest of the tires as. But it doesn't always, you know, they stretch out a lot more than say like our Robusto, which stays more rigid because it's got more material on it. It doesn't allow it to stretch as much.
And then you guys have 3 casing options. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. We're very, very excited about our newest JFF, Just for Fun. It's not only for fun, but just for fun. Like you could do just about anything on it. But it's probably going to be pretty fun. Oh, you want to know the whole list? You don't want to just talk about JFF?
I don't know. Wait, so Patrick's in Portland? Who's Donnie?
Oh, we have our highest end tire. No, we'll start with our.
No, build up to it. We want to have that.
We'll start with our least expensive, right? Our least expensive is the JFF, but least expensive does not equate to low quality. This is still,
it's approachable.
You know, one of the best tires on the market. The best is reserved for our race casing, but we're going to get to that. So this is still one of the best tires on the market. It's got an incredible, very flexible casing. It's unprotected. It's a little bit, the casing is by nature a little bit more durable than our highest end. It's because of that, they don't have to fit as many threads in it, so it doesn't cost as much. Does that make sense?
So why don't I'm going to interrupt and kind of
I screwed
steer this the right way.
Thank you,
Okay,
Patrick.
I ruined it.
The original tire that we wanted to design and build was our Rosé race was
and
our
that's
first
the
tire.
top shelf tire.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Top shelf.
Totally, of course. Who
No
wants to make...
build up, but top shelf. Top shelf.
So we basically the first weekend that they landed, we were so over the moon and excited, and we did a little pop-up here in Portland at Golden Pliers. It was a great shop in town, and we had all these people come in excited about it, and a bunch of people who were fans of Ronny were like, "Oh, I can't wait to tour on this," and we were like,
You're like,
"Oh, it's a pretty thin tire to tour on." We have both toured extensively on it, but it's also like it's a pretty lightweight, fast tire. It's not really amazing for touring on if you're fully loaded.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust it out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's a very thin casing, as you're aware of, Dustin, because you've
loaded though, specifically, because
we're talking about loaded.
I got a ride tomorrow that's going to the middle of nowhere, and I got those tires.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Okay. What if I just paint them black? Does that make them different?
Yeah, that makes them at least 200 grams heavier.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay.
But, you have to deal with it. Yeah.
So that weekend we were kind of just like, you know what? Like we need to do a tire that's a little more protected on the sidewalls for touring and for basically like really, really rugged terrain. And
cool.
So we started working on the Robusto, which was like our second casing that we kind of worked on. And we got a series of different sample casings produced, and we decided on the casing that we use, like the spec that we use for that casing, which is protected sidewalls. And there's a lot of different ways that people protect the sidewalls, but we kind of chose the one that we thought was the most flexible, but still had good protection. Then,
cool.
So through developing that tire, we had kind of asked for a lot of different samples, and the JFF casing was kind of in that mix of samples. And, we had kind of been trying a bunch of them out, and that process kind of, you're like, and so we came out with the Robusto casing for touring and really rugged stuff, but we wanted that. We were kind of thinking it would be nice to do a tire that was a little more approachable, that was kind of the best of both worlds. And that's where the JFF tire kind of fits, is it's like, it's not protected, but it is a little more durable than the race. So we think it's like the best of both worlds.
So, because I'm stupid and I don't understand, it's the race is the top shelf, JFF is the sweet spot, and the Robusto is your fucking protected. I like that.
Yeah,
we're making no claims against middle of nowhere. So I need to order one of those real quick.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
And the race the only tire that we make in our proprietary NASA developed gray race compound is the race casing, the Cava and Rosé race, and our forthcoming tires that would be different names, but we only make our highest end tire in gray.
Okay, and then a question about color. Does color affect rubber? Like, is it?
Yeah, it does. There are a lot of there are certain colors that don't work as well as others because it's a matter of carbon in the compound. That's what makes the tire black. So
okay, totally. Oh,
and
so if you have a white tire, there's not as much.
No, white tire now, and it's funny to think like one of our actual neighbor around here in the Connecticut River Valley is Peter Weigel, and one of the things that he was famous for, I guess 10 years ago, was shaving down Grambois Etras, which were really like light casing, high volume 650B tires that came in three different colors, and he was putting them on all of his like classic randonnée bikes, and he would shave down the rubber to make them like perfectly smooth and really, really thin and flexible so that he could corner harder. It's a pretty cool thing. And that's actually what got me into 650B. I was like all into tuning the rubber on the tires. I thought that was so cool that you can affect so much about the ride quality of your bicycle just with these high volume tires coming from a road background, or not, road mid-ground. And he told me that, you shave down the black, the terracotta, and the white, and like all of the rubbers like felt different, like the shavings to him,
Totally.
And and it's there's a bunch of like Panaracer is able to, as most people have probably seen if you go on like a Panaracer website, they make like the Gravel King in so many different colors, right?
Yeah.
And is that and they've gotten to a point where they can make just about any color and still have it be good.
Oh,
but
wow.
in the early days it was hard for it to, like, it's like if you matched like a black tire and went out on like a white tire or something, you'd be pretty hard pressed at this point now to tell the difference. Like you'd have to really, really split hairs. But it's such a it's
interesting.
It's more of like way more of the tire pressure than anything when it comes down to how those rubbers react.
The color in the compound comes due to the amount of carbon in the compound. And so black tire tread, is more carbon, and that carbon brings just a hardness to the rubber, so it's a little more durable, right? So most of your long distance tires you're going to get a little bit more usage out of it. The colored tires they wear a little bit faster, and so because they have less carbon in them, basically.
Yeah. And our race gray is a softer rubber. It's something that we developed for mostly dirt use, and so you're going to get better traction in on the dirt. On the road, it may wear down a little bit quicker. It's been pretty negligible though.
It's very like he said, Panaracer has really perfected their color compound to where it's a very, very minimal difference. Yeah. I mean, I guess technically it is.
And we wanted it to be softer. Like any color tread that we do is going to be softer, and for a reason. We don't want it to be as hard as the black compound. So yeah, it's if you're riding mostly dirt and you like the look of the gray, which it's undeniable, it's beautiful. So then that's what
he's
you
good. I wish I could cut to Patrick like rolling his eyes and doing things like that. I'm at the fucking mercy of Zoom.
You guys should have came out to the Manse.
Yeah, next time. Next time. I mean, that's the thing, Dustin, is that's the whole tire industry is just that finding that balance point between durability and still being fast, right? Because a faster tire is one that does not last very long,
Yeah,
totally.
It rolls faster, grips better, but is not going to last you as long. Right.
That's
right.
Yeah.
That's the balance that you have to find.
And in my opinion, that's what, I consider myself an environmentalist, even with all people could call this waste, but I still think that things that are like purpose driven like that, that's what I thought was so cool about Weigel shaving those tires to begin with, is that something fast and lightweight is going to wear out a little bit quicker, but I find that to be kind of cool. There's something to be said about, this is no reflection of our tires, and hopefully it won't be taken out of context, Dustin. But I always liked there were these certain tires I would run as a racing mountain bikes as a junior that you literally would get like 2 races out of, and they'd be trashed. That was it. And then you switch tires and have to do it again.
Were they good though?
And so, oh yeah, for those few laps you were flying, But but I just thought I've always thought that was that there's it's part of the it's just another strange like idiosyncrasy of whatever sport you're into. Like there are these weird things, and that was a weird thing to me.
Yeah,
And,
right.
Yeah,
Those are the
makes it
things that
cool.
make the culture cool and
Yeah,
interesting.
right. Yeah,
And then also trip on some fucking Formula One blah blah blah. How many times are they changing tires
Right.
in one race?
Exactly.
Like,
how cool is that? Right.
I mean, it's kind of cool, but then you get into that waste element, and you're like, I
Yeah, the
don't
waste
know.
element
It's
is
like,
bad. Yeah.
but I don't know.
So
It's
yeah.
We've hit this. Welcome to the official lull in the conversation. We'd like to thank Dynamico Tires for their deep, penetrating rubber experience. Dynamico Tires by Patrick.
That's good.
And Johnny? Scott? Billy?
Donnie. Yeah.
Wait, why tires? I mean, I know why, but it still feels worth asking.
That's a good question.
I mean, I think that, I think we've both been really into tires for a long, long time.
Yeah.
I mean, like I can recount to you all the different BMX tires I ran over the years.
Oh,
I mean, I remember tire models like we were just always into it. And I think when we met each other, we talked a lot about tires on bikes.
That's cool.
And I think we both realized early on that that's like a way of tuning the ride of the bike.
100%. 100%. It's almost the most important. I don't know. Important. It's like the most affordable thing you can do to completely transform your experience.
And it's connecting it's what connects you to the ground. It's like, it's such a crucial part of the bike that most people overlook. And I think starting a company, it was like, I just love the idea of starting a company on an idea or a project that like people just take for granted and don't look at all the time. And I think I like the idea of looking at something and just making it, finding that aspect and like just exploring that and doing that, which was really cool. But I think on a bottom, like the basis of it was just like, we always talked about it. Like we would, even when we weren't living in the same city, we would kind of talk on the phone about what we were running and,
cool.
And what pressures.
What pressures.
It's like, it really, for me, bicycle, like the things that you can change on your bicycle that really make a huge impact on the ride quality are your contact points, where contact points on your body and on the road. So I'm into handlebars, saddles, pedals, and tires. And so you can change up your cockpit and get your riding position all different. And then you're able to, address certain terrain differently than you would have if you had a different bike fit, right? But nothing dictates that more than what tire you're running. And there are people that can do just about anything on 700 by 25, gator skin pumped up to 120.
Fuck.
But are they going to have any teeth afterwards? Or do they rattle out of their head? There's ways you can do it very comfortably. And cycling to me, especially after that, after doing the 25 hours a week of training on Central Texas feeder roads, cycling for me isn't about pain anymore. It's about enjoyment, pleasure.
Yeah.
And so the last decade of my riding has been focused on that almost entirely. And there's certain things that you could do to a bicycle that make it very comfortable and perform well. And that's what tires are all about. And Patrick and I both saw, just like what we did in Central Texas with our road racing team. There was we could address what was out there, and we didn't see what we wanted. People weren't making what we wanted, and so we had the opportunity to do it ourselves. We'll do it. And tires were just something that we nerd out on equally, and have great reverence for great tires of the past and what we wanted to see in the tires of the future. And so we unite, and you get triple Ds.
Yeah.
Wait, there's a third D? I thought there was only two of them. Why is he changing this?
Had a nice ring to it. I like that, Benedict.
It did, yeah. Thank you. Wouldn't have worked. 2 Ds didn't work.
I think also like aesthetically, our tastes are really aligned with bikes. And it's funny because when we rode today, you were like, you're riding like a carbon bike. Does Benedict ride carbon bikes ever?
Dude, he's on a brand new open blah blah like top shelf space bike. I was like, oh cool, you're like the tech guy, and Benedict's pushing a wheelbarrow down a mountain, right? Yeah,
I like that.
But believe it or
in
not,
sandals.
But believe it or not, aesthetically, we have really similar tastes. You know,
Sick.
really,
we have a respect for the classics. You know, we come from tradition, and so there's you have to start with a foundation of respect for what's already been out there and what brands have already done in the past, and and in the reflection of what we saw being put out there, you know, there was huge room for a huge even if it wasn't a big market, like we were making what we wanted to ride, and that's the most important.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I say too, it's like a FUBU brand. It's for us, by us. Like you people are living the culture, and you just want to produce something for the culture. Love it.
Isn't that cool that we're able to do that? Like there's plenty, there's overwhelming downsides to technology and social media, and here we are on Zoom.
I mean, I could say there's overwhelming upsides
too, you know, and in the cycling industry in particular, you know, prior, like 5 years ago, we wouldn't really be able to do something like this. You know, you had this, like a direct, like a buyer direct, seller direct model didn't happen. And you would buy your tires, you know, that they would be like, maybe 7 levels removed from the person who designed them.
Oh, for sure.
And how much passion are they going to have for that product that they're selling you if they don't understand it? It's just selling you another tire. Yeah. And so I think it's so cool these days where you could you could find the person that you like their style or their riding style or what they have to say about, you know, the technology, their product or where they stand socially, and you can support that person and actually buy directly from them, and you're essentially tapping into what they would ride, what they exactly want to ride, and that they're able to make and sell directly to you. So you get that experience. That's just so cool about what we're able to do right now. And I think that the future of the bike industry is in great flux right now. Even though we are in a big bike boom, we have these big brands that are out there that aren't nimble enough to, they can't figure it out, you know.
They can't figure it out.
Yeah, and so it's like a really cool position to be in, when Patrick and I need to make a decision. We just call each other and the decision's made. You know, we don't have to have a board meeting about it.
Yeah.
You know, where we're paying like 30 other people to make the decisions for us. You know, and so you get what you end up getting is something directly from our brains, for us, by us. Yeah.
Who does the the graphic work, logo, color schemes? Is that either one of you guys, or is that farmed off to a faraway country?
So our friend Max, who lives in Portland, has worked with a couple of other different cycling brands, and he's a good friend of my wife and I's.
Oh, cool.
And I have always liked his design aesthetic, and he's really, really brilliant. And he and his wife have a very small little agency here in town, and so I kind of pitched them. Central Office is the name of their brand.
Sick.
Or their design agency. And I kind of went and told him the idea, and I think he was like, I mean, there was a lot of like really kind of blank stares for a second, because I don't think they had any idea what I was going to meet with them about when I told them. They were just like, oh yeah, Patrick's coming in to tell us about his new company. But I think that he immediately was like, oh, this is really weird. Like bike tires, and you know, clearly had never done anything for bike tires.
Interesting.
But his aesthetic, and also I wanted somebody that had done some, like he did the brand Breadwinner. He did all of their branding. He worked with Jeremy and Julie at The Athletic on a lot of their stuff.
Sick.
Collaborated with Jeremy quite a bit there. So yeah, it was really important that kind of somebody that rode bikes and new bikes, which Max does. He's a good rider and was familiar with it, but also like comes from like a very kind of pedigreed like design background, and I just liked his style a lot. So we worked with him on like the logo mark and all of that stuff.
We made a mood board, a Pinterest mood board,
Did you really?
Patrick and Italian futurist. That was
Italian.
that was
Great.
Yeah.
That was what we went with, and Max did an excellent job. But that was the we kind of did all of the design first before we'd even had the tires.
Totally. And then it's going to have these hats.
And then it's that. Yeah. I'm serious, I think that's important to us, because we wanted to make a tire brand that people would build their bikes around.
And also
see the tires and be like, I'm going to build a bike around that.
And I think people don't understand. Like it takes a long. I mean, we didn't understand when we started.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it takes a long time to develop a product overseas. Like thousands of emails. The communication is like pretty intense communication, and it's not
language
like you
barrier.
just send them a drawing and you get something back. You have a mold built in like a few weeks, and you have. It takes a really long time.
You wouldn't want it that fast though, because then shit gets fucked up, and you have to pay for it.
So we started with the design. We started with the tire. We were working on the tire at the same time. It just obviously Max being in Portland.
It's about a year. Yeah.
Yeah, it took over a year.
A year before we had that first sample, even. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems
pretty standard, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and it wasn't real. It wasn't.
Even for the big brands, I mean, you think about like all of the big brands that are coming out with bikes. Like those bikes were designed probably a year and a half ago, and they're coming out now.
I know,
so,
it's just such a trip. Like you have to predict the future, basically. Like I don't know, fuck it. Like only rear suspension on all the road bikes.
And when you asked earlier about sizes, like I thought you were going to ask. I mean, that is one of the most. It's weird, but that's one of the things that we go back and forth with the most is like when we're thinking about the next tire we want to do is like what size and like trying to kind of predict the industry. Cause we said earlier, we would love to have 5 different sizes of every tread, but we're too small to do that. And we kind of don't want to do that also. Like we obviously want to sell tires so that we can make some more different tires that we love to ride, but we also want to you have to kind of think about where the industry is headed and, what frames are going to clear moving forward and what people are going to be looking for years to come. And it's a pretty daunting, when you get down to it, it's a pretty daunting thought to like design a mold, pay for it, go through that whole process. And then people are like, I don't know, man. Like, I would have taken a 38 like 2 years ago, or last year, but now my bike clears 44s and I want to, it looks better with a bigger tire in it.
Yeah. Or so everyone's over 650B. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, the fun thing about 650B is that's what Patrick and I prefer 650B, but overwhelmingly the industry doesn't, and they don't necessarily make bikes for it.
Which is
so
great.
When we started off,
is great for you guys. It's tackling a niche.
Yeah. And we didn't initially ever think that we were going to do a 700 tire because we thought that was just so basic, And so
basic,
so basic, but we enough people out there.
Really enough of our friends. It was really enough of our friends,
Cool.
Yeah. And so,
that's real.
we got convinced. Yeah. And so that was our sellout tire. We keep saying we'll end up doing more 700 now. We've gotten over ourselves a little bit.
It's funny because we got the prototypes for the 700 and I put them on and I rode them, and having ridden 650 like basically exclusively for a long time before that on like a gravel bike. Putting the 700s felt so crazy for like the first ride. And then after that, like I started to I like that size quite a bit. And I don't know, I can't determine whether it's just the width, like that 42 millimeter width is really, really nice. Or whether it's the 700, but I actually really like that tire. Benedict and I kind of disagree on this one, but that tire is surprisingly fun, our 700 by 42. And we have a rosé version of that, a 700 by 42 rosé, which will be here in the fall. So we're
sick.
Those tires are fun. It's been, you adapt and you kind of, you go in with some rigid ideas and fixed ideas, and it's good to have those, but I think it's also good to kind of like be flexible and adapt and, be open-minded as you kind of move through it.
Yeah, and always experimenting, I think, is just so important in all facets of our lives, not just with one thing. Like, we got to, spice it up to try and see things from different perspectives.
Experiment with more than just tire pressures. You know what I mean? Try different tire sizes.
Yeah. I mean, I have a bike now that's set, actually the Villier that I rode today, I have one set up 650, one set up 700. It's fucking great because I can really get this, like, taster's challenge with it. Yeah. And I'm not the dude that's like, oh, this feels subtly this. Like, I'm like, the bikes all kind of feel the same-ish. So it's great to have this, like, back-to-back. And I agree with you, the 700, they're 45s on that right now, but that's, like, this sweet spot for kind of, like, not super chunder, but kind of everything else. It's really... I really like the 700 by 42. It's kind of become my road wheel set. Like I ride that on the road all the time. Like, it's fast on the road. And then if you hit gravel, it's great. It's like enough, like, cush. It's nice. File tread?
File tread.
Yeah, sick.
Yeah.
What tires are you on? What tires of ours are you on, Dustin?
Oh, we'll pass that over to Patrick. He knows
he's on the Rose races, double Rose race.
650B or no, that of course.
When you say double, what is that? Is that front and back?
Yeah.
Instead of that mullet setup.
The mullet set. I was gonna say, you were talking about that today. Of like, I kind of like the idea of that even being like in my head when you were talking about like chunky up front, less chunky in the back. Oh, it's like a reverse mullet. Basically, bigger in the front, less bigger in the back.
It depends upon what you think a party is. You know, some people's ideas of parties are different. So
if you cut those Goldilocks, you would have the gravel mullet.
Real. Yeah,
or you could just unclip them.
Yeah, unclip them. Yeah.
I mean, I think like that. The mullet setup was something that we both like I mentioned earlier. Our backgrounds, like riding BMX. It was very common to put like a knob on the front for when you rode trails and then a slick on the back because you didn't really need it that much when you were jumping. You figured out pretty quick, like most of your traction came from that front tire through corners and stuff. And so I grew up, that was common to see mixed tires on bikes. Totally. And then talking with Benedict, once, he kind of turned me more onto mountain biking. As we were kind of progressing through our road phase, I always found it really weird that all of the road tires we were ever on, you only had, it was the same tire front and rear. I just was like, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's not very fun.
Yeah, it's not very fun. Yeah. What's going on with this? And then, but I was I remember having that conversation way back then. Like, did you guys mix and mountain biking? He's like, yeah, we totally mix tires all the time.
Oh, they would. I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, all the time. This is one of my favorite things, about tire tuning is trying out. This is, try this experiment. You can do it on any tire if you have something with a little bit less traction in the rear. But most people don't really understand that, over 80% of your braking traction comes from the front tire. You're putting on the brakes, everything surges forward, right? That's not activated until you put your brakes on. When you're just rolling, all of your weight's in the rear. Have you ever noticed how much quicker your rear tire wears out than your front? It's pretty intuitive. So the rolling resistance is coming from the rear. Your braking traction is coming from the front. These days, when you're running a high volume tire at a low pressure, you're going to get traction in the rear. Maybe mud is the one variable, but for the most part, you're going to get traction in the rear no matter what. It just takes a little bit of body English to get, to let that rear tire hook. And as long as you're running the right pressure, it's going to grab onto whatever's there, and still give you low rolling resistance. So when you add that knobby tire in the front, you're not really adding much rolling resistance, when you're just rolling along on the road or like on smooth gravel. But when you are taking a real dicey corner or just, carooning down a mountain, at 30, 40 miles an hour, for me, it would be about 60 to 65. It's usually what I average. You need to take that hard, loose corner. If you've got a tire with limited traction in the front, like the same as your rear, you're going to lose it. You're not going to be able to hold the line like you would if you had a knobbier front. And so, when you apply the brakes in the front around that corner, you're able to grab a little bit on the side knobs and hold the line a little bit better. And it just makes it you're able to do a lot more while still, being relatively smooth rolling resistance everywhere else. So it's a really fun combo.
It's something that we had talked about for a long time. And when we decided to do the tire company, it's something that we definitely envisioned as being like, we wanted a system of tires were interchangeable and you could use different sizes together. Mm-hmm. And aesthetically, like the treads looked great and performed well, either paired or, mixed and matched, so that was kind of something that was one of the original ideas that we felt like wasn't out there as much. And, people disagree about this for sure. There's some people that like to ride two tires the same, and that's fine too. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. It's, our whole thing is like, we're such tire nerds. We mix and match tires all the time anyway, because we were just constantly kind of tinkering and trying different setups anyway. And we found that for us, we really liked that balance of the slick in the rear, the file tread, the less knobby tire in the rear, and then the knobby in the front. So, I think that was like kind of a pretty important part of the design aspect of this company and what we want to accomplish.
Yeah, and it's putting the priorities of your ride too. Like, are you looking to be better at cornering in the dirt or on the road? Like, what's your priority? Is your ride more like road centric? Like, I want to really hit that, I want to hit that paved corner at 65 miles an hour, or do I want to hit that dirt corner at 65 miles an hour? Well, you can kind of have both this way, but you got to think about what you want to optimize for. Like, what's the fun part of your ride? For me, it's always going to be the dirt. So
sick. That was perfect. Awesome. I think that's a good. We're just gonna stop while we're ahead. Big shout out to Patrick and Ronny, Donnie, Jingleheimer Schmidt for taking the time to hang out with us, spread that tire knowledge. That was a very enlightening episode. I appreciate you guys. Keep doing what you do. I love the product. The world is a better place because of Ultra D. And if you would like to keep the lights on, please consider donating to the International Players Club. Links below, and the advert for it is at the beginning of this. And if you listen to this on any audio casting system that has a rating system, let's tilt the scales and give it a double 5-star thumbs, triple, quadruple rating, huh? Yeah? Much love and respect. I couldn't do this without you. Thank you to you. We'll see you next week.